Good evening. Welcome to Story Night and our 16th birthday show as well. Excited. I'm Jodi Eichelberger. I'm the artistic director and host of Story Night. We're so happy to have you here with us. Before things get too crazy for winking eye with tongue out, I do want to acknowledge our sponsor, Keenly. Thank you, Keenly. And of course, we also want to acknowledge our Story subscribers. Where are our Story subscribers tonight? Yes, all up through the room. Thank you so much. These are people who give monthly and sustaining support, which started back in the pandemic, and it's part of what kept us alive when we didn't have live audiences. And it's been a wonderful program still going today. All right, so who is here for the first time, who's never been to Story Night before? Oh my goodness. Okay, welcome. All right, so tonight's show is a little different than our usual show. You'll discover that very shortly. But there are some things that are the same. Story Night is always true stories told live by the people who lived them, live on stage without notes. And that is true tonight. The difference is that tonight we have, like we always do, 3 featured storytellers intermixed with a community story slam. However, those 3 stories tonight are going to be told by 3 people. So each story, these benches behind me will fill up, and the story's been divided into 3 acts, and it will go through a few minutes of the story. That storyteller will sit down. We'll go through a few more minutes. That story will sit down. And then the last storyteller will finish the story. And then it's your job to figure out who you think the story really belongs to. Now, what we might do is also introduce the slams. These are, anyone in the audience can visit our Story Slam booth over here, put your name in the ticket. And for the first time ever in Story Night history, for winking eye with tongue out, you have the opportunity to either tell a story that really happened to you, or it can be a crazy story that you've just made up. And then again, we'll ask the audience, do you think that really happened or not? And we'll find out. So that's for our crazy stories tonight, whether it's a crazy story or you think it's crazy or people thought you were crazy, whatever it is. The show is big tonight, so I'm going to get right to it. And we have a very special beginning to the show. This is not one of the stories that's going to be divided into 3 sections. This is a guest storyteller that's going to ease us into this idea of imposters. Please welcome to our stage for the first time, Story Night, longtime anchor of KTVB News, Mark Johnson.
I'm so nervous. Ever since my birth certificate, I have been set up to be an unintentional imposter, simply by being named a Mark Johnson. 2002, Salt Lake City Olympics. I was assigned to cover the Olympics for KTVB. The it party at every Olympic Games is a Sports Illustrated party. It features the who's who of sports celebrities, Hollywood stars, all invited. It's impossible to get into unless you fit that category. I said, what the heck? I've got my KTVB Olympic credential. I showed up. They looked at me at the table, the credentialing table, quizzically and said, "Are you on the list?" Michael Jordan, Bruce Jenner, Don Johnson, Mark Johnson. I was in. Next thing you know, I'm joking around with Charles Barkley, meeting the Jamaican bobsled team. Peekaboo Street came over to me and said, "How did you get in here?" Made my way past the champagne fountains, the lobster rolls, into a huge bar room where I saw the entire team members of the 1980 Olympic Miracle on Ice hockey team. And I went up to the captain, Mike Erozione, and I said, Mike, what are you guys doing here? And he said, Sports Illustrated wants to do a cover shoot on us, and we've been waiting to take the picture, but that son of a bitch, Mark Johnson, hasn't shown up. I turned my credential around, and I walked out the back door. How did I get there? Well, you have to go back 22 years to a hockey game that I watched on television that changed everything. 1980, Lake Placid, the Olympic gold medal game for the men, and the U.S. team of amateurs shocked the world. The star of the game and the winning goal scored by a hockey legend from Wisconsin by the name of Mark Johnson. He was etched into lore of the hockey world and also in our country as a sports legend. Well, 3 months later, after that, growing up in Minnesota, playing beer league hockey after college on men's teams, I found out about a team of ragtags that had been invited to go to Mexico City for an international hockey tournament in hopes of recreating the excitement in Mexico that happened in the United States just months earlier. I made the team, was given a seat on the airplane to Mexico City. I was the last one off the plane, and down the ramp, I saw this gaggle of reporters and photographers screaming, Marcos Johnson, Marcos Johnson. Well, of course, I assumed I had taken 3 years of Spanish in college, that the team certainly had made me the spokesman. I got down to the end of the ramp and I said, Sí, me llamo Marcos Johnson. And I said, pero estamos para ganar más oro para los Estados Unidos. We are here to win more gold for the United States. I smiled and walked away. The next day, newspapers all over Mexico City splashed a headline, U.S. Olympic gold medal hero Mark Johnson guarantees another gold medal for the United States. 14 years later, I'm hired as a sports anchor at the ABC station in Pittsburgh. And on my first night on the air, the main anchor jokingly introduced me with this line, "We're pleased to welcome Olympic royalty to our news team. Ladies and gentlemen, gold medal star Mark Johnson." Everyone had a big laugh on the set. The problem was many of the viewers watching that night didn't know it was a joke, and I spent the next year and a half in Pittsburgh taking pictures with viewers as a man I had never met. 2010, my fifth and final Olympic assignment, Vancouver. I, along with my longtime videographer, editor, producer, writer, and friend Shanti Alsalai and I were covering the games in Vancouver for KTVB. One day in the newsroom before we left, Shanti came up to me excitedly and said, "Mark, this is so incredible. Mark Johnson was named the head coach of the U.S. Olympic women's hockey team. And Sun Valley's Hillary Knight is on the team. We'll kill two birds with one stone. We'll cover an Idaho Olympian. And finally, after all these years, you will come face to face with a man." Apologies, vindication. This is going to be fantastic. Shanti was way more excited than me. That inaugural press conference, I asked for and was granted a 2-minute one-on-one interview with Mark Johnson. He was escorted over to me and Shanti, his hand extended, smile on his face, and I said, "Mark Johnson," I was nervous, "Mark Johnson." He looked at me and said, "That Mark Johnson?" And I said, I'm afraid so. But I want to apologize to you, Mark, for all of those years that I may have caused a little embarrassment, maybe a little discomfort for you and your family. None of it was intentional. It was all accidental, I promise, and I'm so sorry. He looked at me and said, "Do you know how long I stood on that rainy street in Salt Lake City trying to convince them I was not in that party? Do you know how many people I've had to try to tell that I've never been to Mexico City? And I damn sure have never been a sports anchor at an ABC station in Pittsburgh." And I said, "Mark, I'm sorry." He said, "We're good." Shook my hand, but then he said, "Don't let it happen again." I looked at Shanti, he looked at me, we packed up, we started making our way down the long Vancouver hallway to our workspace when suddenly we were stopped in our tracks by two Vancouver paramedics. One of them came up and said, "Mark Johnson, we're huge fans." I said, "Well, thinking, certainly you are. After all, you probably trained at the paramedic training facility in Boise and saw me on TV on Channel 7 for this opportunity and assignment." And I said, "Thanks, I appreciate that." One of them held a camera out to Shanti and said, "We've been fans since 1980. I looked at Shanti, he looked at me like a big brother looks at a little brother who's about to do something stupid and he better think about it. I did. I thought about it. Then I handed the camera to Shanti and said, "Let's do this, fellas. Click!"
Thank you, Mark Johnson, whichever one you are. Now, I understand that Big Brother is in the audience tonight. Shanti, would you stand, please? Shanti, are you here? Shanti? Okay. Oh. I see the imposters have already crept into our room tonight. All right, well, will the real Shanti please remain standing? All right, there he is. Wow. And you were all kind of sitting in the same area, too. Interesting. All right. We are going to move into our mode of to tell the truth. So let's get our first set of storytellers up on stage. Here's how it's going to work, we think. So we're going to go through the story, and then some of the audience will get a chance to come up and ask a question of the storytellers to find out if they can figure out who is the real storyteller. Yeah, come up, storytellers, for storyteller number one. Now, the way that you get to do that is because this is our 16th birthday. We've done this before where we have this app. You can text Story B Day to 44321, and if you give $16 or more, you're going to show up on a list on the, well, actually, any amount you give is going to show up on the list. But our idea is to select from people in the audience who have given to Story Night $16 or more, and you'll get a chance to come up and ask these three questions that will benefit the entire audience as we switch to a poll that will allow you to scan a QR code, theoretically, and find a poll where you get to decide if it's storyteller number one, storyteller number two, or storyteller number three. Hopefully that'll make more sense while it's happening. It's all theoretical until we get to the other side. All right, I think I did want to say, though, that birthday campaign, we found out from our treasurer that in our budget we rely on $2,000 in individual giving for our annual budget, and we don't have it. So that is part of the goal tonight, and you'll see that on the screen when it comes up. But now I think we're ready to move to the point where I get to say, storytellers, Please come up and tell us your names.
My name is Duanne Stitt, and this is my story.
My name is Mark Johnson, and this is my story. Louis Barney Katz, and this is my story.
My name is Mark Drew, and this is my story.
I am a veterinarian by trade. I have worked the bulk of my career as a vet for the Idaho Department of Fish and Game. And as a vet with IDFG, I have had the amazing privilege of working with a wide variety of wildlife in the state of Idaho. I have gone on helicopter rides, I've gone epic hikes, snowmobile trips, backcountry river trips. I have been places, I'm from New Zealand originally, and I've seen places and been to places that in Idaho that most Idahoans will never get to see. I have the best job in the world. It's not all fun and games though. There's a lot of hard work. There are also a lot of injuries. I've experienced some of these injuries myself. And I've had to make certain promises to my wife when I get these injuries, 3 in particular. 1, I should call her when I get injured. 2, don't leave a message about such injury. And 3, only drive home if I am capable. So about 10 years ago, I was out with a group of biologists in the Frank Church River of No Return wilderness area, about 30 miles up the Salmon River from Spring Bar Boat Ramp. And we were looking for bighorn sheep that were engaged in courtship behaviors. So our job in the jet boat was to get close enough to the beach where we could observe such activities, and to get close enough to shoot a couple of these sheep with tranquilizer darts. And so I was able to shoot one big ram in the hip. We waited for it to go to sleep a few minutes. It did not immediately. It ran up a hill about 15 feet and went around behind some rocks. So about 3 of us jumped out of the boat, climbed up after it as quick as we could, so when we wanted to get to it before it hurt itself. And we found it just as it was about to slide over the edge of a cliff. So we grabbed it, pulled it back, took some biological samples, attached a radio collar on it, and then as it was coming out of its anesthesia, I was holding its head by its horns, twisting his head up the hill, so when he woke up, that would be where he went rather than off the edge of the cliff. And he opened his eye, he looked at me, and then he rammed my thumb in between his horn and a rock. And just for fun, I guess, he started grinding it in. And then he hopped up and walked calmly up the hill, leaving me with a bloody mess. I grabbed my bandana and I wrapped up my thumb as best as I could. We carried our gear back down to the boat, and we all got together to have a look at my thumb. I looked down to see bone and tendon. I looked up to see our boat pilot fainted on the ground. And we decided that I should probably get this looked at, get it stitched up before I came back, and we headed back out on more adventures. So I sloshed out some of the rock and dirt in the water in the river there. We woke up our boat pilot, headed back downstream 30 miles to the boat ramp. I jumped in my truck and drove 2 hours to McCall. I got to the hospital, to the ER. The nurses unwrapped my thumb, pulled out a few more bits of rock and bone. And then the ER doctor said to me, "You do not need to go back to work tomorrow. You need to go to Boise to see an orthopedic surgeon." Time to call the wife. So remember my 3 promises. I called her. I did not leave a message. I told her all about my injury, and I talked to her about helping me get an appointment set up for the orthopedic surgeon the next day. And I said, I'm fully capable of driving. It's only a thumb. However, the ER doctor had told me that if I was to drive, he could not give me any pain medications. So it's a 2-hour drive from McCall to Boise. About halfway to Boise, the pain had become so great that I started to bite my bottom lip. About half an hour later, I'd bitten through my bottom lip and had blood dripping down my chin onto my shirt. And by the time I got home and my wife opened the door, I was not an obvious target for a welcome home hug. So there was some intense discussions, let's say, and about what had happened, why, what we needed to do for the orthopedic surgeon the next day. I did remind her, I had called her, I did not leave a message, and I was technically capable of driving home. Suffice it to say, 2 thumb surgeries later, I still have a thumb. It is not as flexible as it used to be, but the back cast on my fly rod is much improved.
That was pretty good.
That's because it's true.
About 15 years ago, I was working for Fish and Game, and we had one of those breeding facilities out in Caldwell, which that 15 years ago, Caldwell was not what it is today. It was not the new Nampa. As a matter of fact, even Nampa wasn't the new Nampa. And so I'm working out there, and we got a whole collection of animals. We got 15 bighorn sheep, which you ever seen one of those with their horns wrapping around like, maybe God is capable of making mistakes. And we had 30 bison, and the bison, they'll look at you like, give me a cookie. Always wanting something, those bison. And then we had 100 elk. And for all those 100 elk, we had 3 bull elk. Why? For breeding. I mean, these guys are busy. And so they're doing, the bull elk do their thing. And it's reached the point where they're all done, and the she elks are out in the pasture smoking a cigarette. So what are we going to do with these 3 bull elk, right? Well, we give them to the food bank. Yeah, they turn them into people food. Like Soylent Green. Well, I'm up on a raised platform, and I got my bull elk. There's Dino. I got my rattle paddle to guide them through the chutes and the alleyways to get them onto the truck to go to the food bank. So Dino goes, no problem. And then we got Sammy. Now, Sammy's a little tricky because he's blind in one eye, and if you don't supervise him, well, he'd just go around in circles. And so I led him through the chutes and the alleyways and up into the truck. Now, if you ever seen a bull elk, you're probably wondering, well, how much does a bull elk weigh? Yeah, typically it's 600 or 700 pounds. Okay, but now we're on to the third. Frank. Frank must weigh about 3,800 pounds. He's big, and he's mean, and he's got those bloodshot eyes and a smoke coming out of his ears, and I'm trying to lead him onto the ramp into the truck, and he's about to go up the ramp, And he turns and he looks at me and he comes charging and he jumps up onto the wall. Now I'm on the elevated platform and I go over 10 feet and I land safely on my arms. Ow. Well, Julie, my tech, she comes running over. Are you okay? You okay, Lewis? Well, you don't look so okay. How many fingers am I holding up? And I'm like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Wait a minute. I shake my head. Oh, no, 3. And she's like, well, maybe you ought to call your wife. No, don't worry about it. I'm fine. You go home. I'll lock up. We're not going to send the bulls tonight. They get a reprieve. We'll let them out into the pasture, and we'll worry about it tomorrow. So you go home. I'll lock up. I'll turn out the lights. No big deal. She takes off. I lock up, turn out the lights, I head out to my truck. I get in the truck, and I start up the truck. Now, you want to know the best way to drive a truck? Not with your elbows. But that's all I had left, and so I drove home like this, going, ow, I'm trying to sing, right, like distract myself, and I get home, and I say, okay, lights are out. I'm just gonna sneak in the back and head up the stairs to bed. And my wife, she won't know. I mean, I know I'm supposed to call her. I forget. I didn't call her. So now I'm trying to get out of the truck, and I can't get out of the truck. So I honk the horn. Honk, honk, honk with my forehead. See the lights come on in the house. My wife comes running out. She takes one look at me and she said, Jesus Christ, Lewis, what happened to you? And so I told her. And then she went like this. She held up one finger. Said, Lewis, do you remember? We had a rule, right? We talked about this. If you get injured, you're supposed to call me. And I'm like, oh, yeah, no, I remember. Yeah, but I didn't. And rule number 2 is that if you call me and I don't pick up the phone, well, don't leave a message. Honey, I remember that as if it was yesterday. It was yesterday. No wonder. And if you had just called me, I would have come in and I would have got you. And I say, you know what? Don't worry, honey, baby, sweetie pie. It won't happen next time. And she said, ha! Next time? There'll be no next time. We're going to the ER right now. And so she took me down to the ER. And we waited for what seemed like 36 hours, and they took me in. And then in walks Dr. Drake Ramore, which is not his real name. I changed the names to protect the practitioners. He comes in and he looks at me and he looks at my wife and he looks at me and he looks at my wife and he says, Mrs. Katz, I'm very sorry, but we're gonna have to put him down. And then he starts laughing, and I'm laughing, and we're all laughing except my wife. Well, she's not laughing. See, that very funny. And the doctor said, no, seriously now, we're gonna have to operate, but you'll be almost as good as new. And so the next day we did the operation, and sure enough, I was almost as good as new. My wrist, which it already, it seems to be a magnet for disaster, but you know what? It's not quite perfect, but it's really good for fly fishing. And my elbow, It acts up every now and then, mostly when I'm in the line at the In-N-Out trying to get to the front. And that's the conclusion of the middle of this story. And now some other guy is going to come up and try to convince you that it's his.
So about 20 years ago, I was having some vision problems, particularly my peripheral vision. I couldn't quite see out on the edges. Had a minor traffic accident, decided that I probably should go see the eye doc, right? Went to the eye doc, the ophthalmologist, and he did all these tests. You know, when you go there, you look down this little machine and there's a little red barn and they put it in and out of focus and you say good, bad, good, bad, good, bad, right? And then this other machine where there's these little fuzzy things that kind of float around and you're supposed to do the little clicker thing whenever you see one. I thought I nailed it. So I was talking to the ophthalmologist. He looked at the results and he got this really worried look on his face. And he said, "You need to make an appointment within 48 hours to see a neurosurgeon." I said, my eyes? He goes, "No, you got something wrong in your head." I said, "Oh, okay." So went home, called the neurosurgeon, made an appointment for 2 days later. Went to the neurosurgeon. He did some neurological exams, balance, that sort of thing, looked in my eyes, and he got a really worried look on his face. Now I'm getting a little nervous. He said, "Within 48 hours, I want you to have an MRI." I said, "Okay." This was on a Thursday. "Does that include Saturday?" He goes, "No, Monday will do." So he made an appointment for me on Monday morning for an MRI. 8:30 in the morning, went to the MRI place, got all that stuff done, did the procedure, got my clothes back on, got in my fishing game rig, and I drove to Bonners Ferry because I needed to help some biologists up there do a turkey trapping project and get some biological samples from the turkeys. Back then, 20 years ago, we didn't have the cell reception that we have now. So when I came up off the Palouse Prairie up onto Lewiston and towards Moscow, my BlackBerry rang. Remember BlackBerries? You know, those really cool things with the buttons that you actually could push? And they were encrypted. How cool is that? So I talked on the phone. The voice on the phone said, "You're so-and-so, yeah. He says, "Your MRI results indicate that you have a brain tumor." I said, "Thank you for that information." Knowing that there wasn't a whole lot else I could do, I got in the truck and drove the rest of the way to Bonners Ferry. When I got to Bonners Ferry, checked into the hotel, I called my wife. Said, "Hey, this is me. Got to Bonners Ferry, okay, everything's cool. Remember that MRI I had this morning? They say I have a brain tumor. I'll call you later." Just the kind of message you would leave your spouse with that kind of information, right? Needless to say, a couple hours later, when my wife called me back, there was kind of a terse and pithy conversation. Some rule kind of things about what happened, what didn't happen, and all that sort of stuff. And she said, "And instead of when your dad comes home, you will talk to him," she said, "when you get home, we're going to have a further conversation." I said, "Fair enough." But I promised her the first rule. I said, "I will never, if I get injured, I will never call again and leave a message. I promise. Wink, wink. Never will happen again." And suffice it to say that when I got home, had the surgery, 2 brain surgeries later, my hat now covers my craniotomy scars really well, and life is good.
Okay, now's the time where you can take out your phones. Now, if you don't know how to text Story B Day to 44321, what that means is you open your messaging app, you type 44321, and then the message says Story B Day, and then you hit send. Then it's going to send you a link for you to click, and then you can do your thing. If you want to give a gift, but you don't want to ask a question, you can do it anonymously. I won't call on Anonymous to do a question. All right, so we're going to reveal that screen here in a second, and we'll see. Okay, right now we have one person on there, so we'll enjoy the theme music from To Tell the Truth for just a little bit to give people a chance to log in there, and then you can be thinking of questions you might ask these three fellows to see. Story B-Day to 44321, or if you're a Verizon user, apparently it's special. You have to send it to 917-999-0700. All right, we got some good chatter going out there. Good work. We have some people who have given up already. But what we don't have yet is another name on the board, so let's get that. All right, I'm going to move to this other mic. Very good. Well, and Carrie Bruce isn't even here right now, so I can't call on her. She gave her gift 4 days ago. First person with success. Here they come, I sense it. Haley Linhart Weiss. All right. They're starting to come in. Let's see if we get some more names here. Rachel Drew, very good. Kathleen Painter, thank you very much. All right, in just a minute, I'm going to call the instructions I have is to call the fifth name on the screen. Christian Carnahan, thank you. Chelsea Chambers, thank you. That means we have our first interrogator, Haley Lenhart Weiss. Come on up, and you can keep giving, and I'll select maybe another name that's fifth as it goes along. In the meantime, oh, thank you, Darcy. Wow. All right, Haley, are you on your way? There. Okay. Good. So you can do this. You address your question to storyteller number 1, storyteller number 2, storyteller number 3. You can have a different question for each of them, or the same question down the row.
Thought of questions. All right, maybe this is a question for all three of you. Who's willing to take off their hat?
That's an easy question. I'd say no. I'd say no. Yeah, none of us.
All of you are no? That's not fair. I guess that was my question.
Okay, thank you. Chelsea Chambers, come on up. Chelsea, are you on your way? Come on, Chelsea. Think of your question as you're coming down. I don't know how long my cord is. All right, so you can ask a different question to each storyteller or the same question across.
And the goal is to guess.
You're trying to figure out who the imposters are, yeah.
Got it. Okay. Well, I think I know who the imposter is, but I don't know what question to ask. Number 2, what's your job?
Yeah, come to the mic. Actually, all three of you come up to the mic.
On the count of 3, say your jobs. Just kidding.
Veterinarian.
Oh, right.
Veterinarian with the Idaho Department of Fish and Game.
You're all veterinarian.
Veterinarian.
Yeah.
Right, maybe something about being a veterinarian.
What kind of animals did you work on last week?
Which one?
Number 2.
Why do you keep picking on me?
I don't know.
I've since left the Department of Fish and Game. I'm semi-retired.
See how many anonymouses there are now? Nobody wants to.
All right, thank you very much. Okay. All right, I will ask a question of each of the storytellers. Storyteller number 1, what kind of drug is the safest to use to put a large animal under?
It's a form of lidocaine called Costinazone. Does that help?
Storyteller number 2, same question.
Could you repeat the question?
Yeah, what's the safest drug to use to make a large animal unconscious?
Hydrocortisone.
Storyteller number 3, same question, please.
High potency narcotic called carfentanil.
All right, thank you very much. You can take your seats. And now we're going to switch to the poll. So here you can scan this QR code with your phones again. And by the way, thank you to all those gifts that came in. I lost track of the last number, but that's fantastic. We're making good progress. And then you'll vote on whether you think who the former veterinarian is. Is it storyteller number 1? Is it storyteller number 2? Or is it storyteller number 3? And look, we have the 3 elk there that Lewis named Frank and...
Dino, Sammy, and Frank.
Dino, Sammy, and Frank. All right, very good. The elk pack. All right. And we'll see if people are having success with this. I think if we hit the reveal, the poll, we should start to see how people are voting. Oh, here we go. Right now we have storyteller number 3 with 71% of the vote, storyteller number 1 with 26%, and New Zealand right now is at 3%. Oh, I'm sorry, I thought it was in order. Storyteller, New Zealand is at 24%. Got it. Storyteller number 2 at 3%. All right, Frank didn't sell the story, apparently. All right, very good. Now, we are actually going to reveal the true storyteller a little later in the show. Right now, I'm going to check with the story booth. Ben, do we have anybody in there? We have a finger in the air. All right. Let's bring him up. Yeah, let's bring it up. Thank you to our storytellers. We'll see you again shortly. And we can go back to the Give Lively screen, please. All right, so we have a slammer here. This is the first time we've ever done this. They have 5 minutes to share their winking eye with tongue out. And it might be true or it might be false. We'll see. But coming up to tell it is Holden. Holden, come on up. All right, here he comes.
I really didn't think my name was going to get called. Was it the only one? Did anyone else put something in there?
One person.
There was one other person. Okay, I see. I see how this works. All right. Okay. I'll tell a quick story. I used to live in LA. I'm not from there. Don't count that against me. I'm not from there, but I did used to live there. It's not the first place I lived. But I was there at one point. And I drove Lyft while I was there. That was my thing to do to try and make money. And what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna tell you one of the kooky stories that happened while I was a Lyft driver. The problem I always have had though was trying to remember funny stories from my life to tell people is that they often don't follow the rules of good storytelling. They don't have a strong punchline, a strong ending. So I'm gonna be completely honest with you. I'm gonna make one up for this story. The story's gonna be true, but then I'm gonna throw in something at the end that didn't really happen. Maybe you won't be able to tell. But I wanted to be honest with you. So I was driving Lyft one night. This is the story of the most money I ever made in one Lyft ride. because I was driving around in the North Hollywood area. For those who don't know LA, there's Hollywood, and then north of that, there's North Hollywood. And I get a pickup. I go to pick up the man, a very LA sort of guy, and he's immediately like, "Okay, man, this is gonna be a long one. I'm gonna need to put some money in my account before you can drive me anywhere. So could you first take me to the ATM so I can do that?" I'm like, "Okay, all right, I want that money." And then I take him to the ATM, puts in some money, comes back, he's like, "All right, now before we go, we're gonna need to go back to my place. I'm gonna need to pick up my dog." So I'm like, "Okay, this better be worth it." I go to his place, he leaves, and comes back with the smallest, fattest little pug you've ever seen in your life, and just sort of plops it down on the seat next to him. And this thing might be like a gargoyle because it makes no sound, no reaction to anything. And so then the guy's like, all right, we're finally ready to go. Address comes up. I'm taking this man to Riverside and back. Some of you understand how far that is. That's like a whole other city. I mean, it's the SoCal area, so it's not like you leave one city, go through Knot City, and enter another. It's just sort of like 10 cities directly next to each other with no clear division, but Riverside is a good 10 cities away. He wants me to, and I'm like, wow, you want me to go to Riverside and back? What? It's that, I'm gonna get like $120 out of this, which means he's paying like $300. I'm like, what do you need to? I'm a little curious because I'm like, what do you need to do that for? He's like, I gotta drop off something at a friend's house. So this is drugs. So this is like definitely a drugs thing. I am definitely abetting in the transfer of illegal substances. But I don't ask for confirmation of that because I could really use that $120. So I take this man on the hour-long drive on the freeway to Riverside. It was a good thing it was at night, otherwise that would have been a lot longer. Not a very chatty fellow. Only time I really hear his voice is at one point when he briefly gets on his phone to scream at his girlfriend for about 5 minutes, then hangs up. So we get to his friend's place, and he gets out the door and looks back at the dog and goes, "Are you coming?" And the dog just goes. Dude goes, "Okay," leaves. And so it's just me and the dog in there for about 5 minutes until the dude comes back and he's like, "Okay, we can go now." And so I start to make the journey back, but he's like, wait. Can you stop at a 7-Eleven? I want to get one of that special soda they have, their Baja Blaster. Normally I don't do that, but I'm getting $120 for this. So I do that. The first 7-Eleven, we get there, he gets out again, once again says to the dog, "You coming?" Dog says, he goes, "Okay," leaves. Me and the dog wait there, another 5 minutes, he comes back, really angry, they don't have the Baja Blaster. We go to about 5 more 7-Elevens until he finds the drink he wants. I keep doing this because I want the money. Each time it's the same thing. He gets out, asks the dog if it's coming. The dog doesn't say anything. He leaves the dog in the car, goes back, and this goes on 5 times until he gets his Baja Blaster, which is like a Mountain Dew, but it's like some unhealthy blue color. Kind of looks like a dish detergent. And then we drive the rest of the way back to North Hollywood. I drop him off, click the little button, my $120 comes in. He's almost done with his drink. And as he gets out of the car, he turns to the dog one more time, looks at the drink, offers it to the dog, goes, "Hey, do you want any of this?" And he says, "Hey, do you want any of this Baja Blaster?" And the dog says, Baja Blaster, I hardly know her. Thank you. That's my story.
All right, we're going to do a low-tech version of this. If you think that Holden's story was crazy and it was false, please raise your hand.
That's a complex question.
Okay. All right, those are the falses. And how many think that Holden's story was true? I would say the trues have it. Holden, will you reveal, was that a true story?
Well, the very last part wasn't. That was the part I made up.
Yeah, okay. All right. Thank you very much, Holden. Baja. I hardly know her. All right, let's bring up our next set of storytellers for our second round of To Tell the Truth. Please come on up. Now you all know how this works, so we're gonna, and also, wow, look at this. We're almost at $1,600. We're getting close to our goal. That's so great. We are going to turn that screen off for the now so that we can concentrate on the story here. And the first thing I will do is ask for these storytellers to please come up and, well, you know two of their names, but we've got a new one here, so we're gonna ask them to come up and tell us their names.
I'm not Mark Johnson. I'm Louis Barney Katz, and this is my story.
I'm Janet Lowe, and this is my story.
I'm Mark Drew, and this is my story.
Center mic.
Oh. I like center mic. My dad always knew I was a quitter, which is why he made me join the swim team when I was 7 years old. Our coach was mean. He hated kids. He would make us swim laps, back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And he would yell at me, Louis, quit wiggling. Because I was a wiggler, okay? And I was tired from swimming all those laps. And so one day I get out of the pool and I go up to the coach and I raise my hand to ask him, to let him know that I was there and that I was tired. And I said, Coach, nothing. Coach, nothing. Coach, still nothing. So I shoved him into the pool. And I'm laughing, and everybody's laughing, and the coach, he's not laughing. And he gets out of the pool, and he's looking at me, and he's growling at me like he always did, like, "Argh." And I'm thinking, I got to make like a banana and leave. And so I took off running, even though there's a big sign that says no running, no horseplay. I took off running and I ran straight into the locker room, up the stairs, down the hall, and the coach is right behind me running. I could feel his hot wolf breath on my neck, him going, "Argh!" And I ran to the left, and he ran to the left, and I ran to the right, and he ran to the right. And then I did that zigzag maneuver thing that they taught us in the pool during guppies. And he was right there. He was everywhere I went, there he was. And I'm running out of breath, and then I get into a corner, and I turn around, and there he is, and he goes, "Ah, got you now." And he picked me up. And I'm swinging, and I'm kicking, and I'm screaming at the top of my lungs. Ah! And he's carrying me down the hall, And I'm still kicking and swinging and screaming down the hall and down the stairs and down to the deck of the pool. And 1, 2, 3, and he throws me out, way out into the middle of the pool where not even the U.S. Navy could rescue me. But they don't have to because I know how to swim and I'm dressed for it. Not like the coach in his street clothes all sopping wet like a lone soggy wolf. And so I get out of the pool and I look at him and he looks at me and he goes, and then I went and I got dressed and then my dad picked me up at the Y and he said, "How was swimming?" And I said, "Horrible." And he's like, "That's nice." And he unplugs his hearing aid. I didn't even get to tell him the story. Next time we come back, something changed, right? It's still the same coach, but instead of growling at me like, "Argh," it's more like, "Argh." Like he was nice. All of a sudden, what happened to the coach? I don't know this guy. And I'm like, okay. And then the next time I showed up, he was gone. Like, what happened to the coach? I mean, I didn't ask it out loud. No, because I was a kid. And when you're a kid, people come and people go, and you don't question it. It's just, this is okay. He was here today, gone tomorrow, whatever. And maybe he got fired, maybe he quit, maybe he got drafted. I wasn't asking questions. And so now, but I did ask my dad a question. I said, "Daddy, can I quit?" And he said, "No." "How come Annie doesn't have to swim?" Annie was my older sister. "How come Annie doesn't have to be on the swim team?" And he said, "Well, Annie's older for one thing, and she plays the flute." I'm thinking, what's that got to do with anything? "Well, how come I can't play an instrument?" And he said, "Well, you played the clarinet, but it made you burp. And so you quit." "Oh, yeah. No, this is true." "Well, Daddy, can I play the drums?" "No." For 3 long years, I was on the swim team. And when that swim team wasn't good enough for him, he switched me to another one. And when that one wasn't good enough, he switched me to another one. 3 long years, 3 long teams. And finally, one day, I'm in the car with my dad. And I said, "Daddy," he said, "What?" I said, "You know what I want to be when I grow up?" And he's thinking, "Oh, my sonny boy, he wants to be an engineer when he grows up, just like me." And he says, well, what?" "Not on the swim team." And he looked at me and he said, You know what, Louis? If Mom says it's okay to quit, you can quit." And I said, "Well, I already asked Mom, and she said I could quit." And then he said, "Well, then, if Mom says okay that you could quit, then you can quit." And I said, "Well, then I quit." And that was the day I became a man.
So Pete was my best friend for a really long time, and he lived in an apartment building on College View Drive. And I thought it was really cool that he lived in an apartment building, and we lived in a house not far from Pete's. And even though Pete lived on the ground floor of this apartment building, one of our favorite things to do was to get into the elevator and go up and down and up and down and up and down, especially when it was really, really busy and lots of people there, and we will press every single button and stop on every single floor. And of course, as the years went by, we had to not jump as high to press those top buttons. And Pete and I put on a Ronald McDonald puppet show during Mrs. Paul's first grade class. And this was before she got pregnant and left us. So these puppets were these thin plastic gloves with really, really thick fingers. And there were only two kinds. There was Grimace and there was Ronald McDonald. And we each had a Ronald McDonald. So I was Ronald McDonald and Pete was Donald McDonald. And we were twin clowns and we went around the neighborhood solving crime. So a couple of grades later, Pete bought a copy of the Beatles' Ticket to Ride. And you know, the one on the flip side that was, Yes, It Is? Yes. We were into vinyl records, 45s. And everyone thought we were weirdos, and not just because we listened to Beatle records. And so Pete would make fun of Yes It Is by singing it with an Irish accent, even though he was Greek. Well, technically his parents were Greek, but it was all Greek to me. Thank you. Thank you. So I secretly liked Yes It Is. I loved everything the Beatles sang, except Blue Jay Way. What a stupid song. There's a fog upon LA, and my friends have lost their way. Please don't be long. Please don't you be very long. As cool as it would have been for the Beatles to get back together, now that I'm older, I can kind of understand why they didn't. I mean, it's like that book. You can't go home again. You really can't. So I convinced Pete to lend me that record, and I played it over and over and over again on my sister's record player until it got all scratched up. And I never understood why my sister got to have a record player and I didn't. But Pete got really mad at me that I scratched up his record, but we stayed good friends until high school, except for a couple of weeks when he went with this girl named Linda. But after they broke up, we took Pete back because that's what friends do. We don't quit on each other. Linda hated all of us and we hated her back, which was a shame because it would have been nice to have another girl in our group.
My other best friend when I was growing up was named Wing. And we were really good friends along with Pete. Until this one instance where I teased Wing a lot, told him that he was a baby and he kicked me in the groin. But other than that, we were pretty good friends. And Pete and Wing and I hung out all the time. One of the things we liked to do was walk down to the local McDonald's, which is actually where we got the puppets for the puppet show. We just hang out there. So one day, Wing and Pete went down, and I wasn't there. They went down to the McDonald's, and they got chased by an older boy that had a hypodermic syringe that we thought was filled with heroin, which scared the bejeebers out of me. And so I didn't go down to McDonald's for a long time. But when I finally got over that, it's about the same time that I discovered super glue. You know, super glue? That little one drop does everything, right? Never quits. I wasn't in it for sniffing. It was for gluing stuff together. But anyway, one day we were walking down to McDonald's and I had my super glue with me and I was gluing stuff together, right? Sticks and pieces of paper on stop signs and that sort of stuff. And so we got close to McDonald's. I saw a brick in the street right next to a gold-colored Nova. Guess what? Super glue holds bricks on Novas really well. Crazy, huh? But I had another friend when I was growing up that actually became addicted to heroin. And I think I was the cause of that. Because I introduced this friend to pot the same night that I dropped acid in my parents' garage. He eventually kicked his heroin habit, and I actually quit using pot when I discovered in high school cross-country running. And I ran cross-country for years until I got to college, and then I eventually quit cross-country, and shortly after that I actually quit college too. But I went back to college and I got my degree, so I guess I'm kind of an 85% quitter. That's at least a B, right? I'm not looking for a Lifetime Achievement Award, I'm just looking for a B. Good enough, right? But quitting isn't always bad. Despite what my dad taught me about not quitting and that kind of philosophy rubbed me the wrong way, and it also kind of changed my life perspective a little bit. Not all quitting is bad. So when I think about all the stuff that's happened to me over my life, I have sleepless nights. And counting sheep doesn't help. I keep thinking about all these things that I've done, right? So I think about gluing bricks on novas. I think about pushing my swim coach in the pool. I think about scratching Pete's record and really not giving a damn about that, which is something that a bad person would do, right? So, and I didn't even tell you about quitting Hebrew school, which gave my grandma a heart attack, and she eventually died of that. I mean, this stuff weighs on you. So, I mean, payback is a bitch sometimes. But karma's not circular either. So when if you think about that, all this bad stuff that's happened in my life, and we haven't talked about shingles, we haven't talked about irritable bowel disease, we haven't talked about any of that. But at the end of the day, still, I think about all this stuff that I've done to people, and I kind of ruin people's lives sometimes. It makes me feel really bad. But in the end, I think all these people that I've done bad things to or wronged, they've probably forgiven me, I think. So maybe I should cut myself some slack and just kind of enjoy life. Last time that I went to my doctor asked me if I had a plan, meaning did I have a plan to kill myself? Seriously. And I said, no, I don't have a plan. And that was true. I didn't have a plan. But at the same time, I'm living my life, right? I don't have a plan. My only plan is I'm going to live until God pulls the plug. But I also have to deal with this part of me that is a little bit uncertain, and all this stuff happens. So maybe my best choice is just to keep on moving forward, knowing that my dad didn't raise me as a quitter.
Wow, okay. Ooh, this is getting tough, huh? All right, let's put up the, ooh, very good. All right, yeah, why don't we ask Kelly to come up and ask a question? Kelly, are you nearby? Should ask a question of our storytellers here. Here she comes. Thank you to, yeah, come up to the mics for your questions. Yeah, that'd be good. All right, Kelly, you got something for him? No, you have no questions. All right.
Where did you attend Hebrew school? Number one,
where did you attend Hebrew school?
You know, it was a long time ago. I think it was in Hollywood, California. That's a place in California. They make movies there.
North Hollywood, maybe?
It's South.
Hollywood.
They don't call it South Hollywood, but it's Hollywood.
Okay.
Number 3, where did you attend Hebrew school?
I attended Hebrew school in Hollywood.
Do you want to know where I attended Hebrew school?
Actually, let's shift the question a little bit. Let's ask Janet what's something that she learned in Hebrew school.
A favorite phrase. A favorite phrase.
Well, it was so long ago. L'chaim.
Okay, thank you. All right, let's go to our poll. And let's see how we're doing. We are on round 2 here. Who glued a brick to the hood of a gold Nova? All right, people have started coming in. We've got 75% right now at storyteller number 1. 25% for storyteller number 14%. 13. It's storyteller number 2. Apparently, l'chaim is to life, l'chaim is not a winning phrase for us, right? Oh, no, now I reminded them, l'chaim, it's going back up. Storyteller, okay. Are we settled? No. We're still coming in. It's a real battle between storyteller number 2 and storyteller number 3. Now they're tied. And storyteller number 1 is losing credibility by the second. You're not even getting a B+ right now. All right, I think we've kind of got a sense of it here. So let me go ahead and ask, will the person who this story belongs to please stand up? All right, you got him. You got Lewis. That was his story. Okay, now shift into position for story number 1. So we need Duanne back up. Sorry. Get back into your positions for there. And we're coming back to who is the former veterinarian. I don't know if it's possible for you to keep voting on this or not, or change your vote. Looks like we're locked in at... Oh, no, people are still voting. Now that they know the results of the other story, I didn't know if that maybe would change things a little bit. But we have got storyteller number 3 at 73%, storyteller number 1 at 25%, and I guess we do know now that Lewis's story was the second story, so it seems like you got that figured out. All right. Storytellers, will the storyteller who this story belongs to please stand up? We still don't know who it is, except that there he is, storyteller number 3. All right, you guys are good at this. Good. Wow, that was a lot of work. We are going to take a 10-minute break now. This is your opportunity to refresh your drinks. Visit our merch table. We're going to put up the Give Lively board here again, so you can continue to text that number if you like. One thing I want to mention about the merch table is the guys that are running that, they donated the t-shirts to Story Story. So 100% of the profit, or 100% of the income from that comes to Story Story. And we'll see you back here for our last round of To Tell the Truth. All right, if you can hear my voice out in the lobby, we are going to get started with our second act here. Wow, that's a little too tall, probably. I am going to start with a message from our sponsor. Tech team, that means I've changed the order of the show, so I've moved to Music QE. Normally, I ask for insurance music, as those of you who come regularly know. Tonight, though, it's one of the themes from To Tell the Truth. A wink can be a lot of things, like, I know something you don't know, trust me. This is definitely a true story. It was not a true story. It's similar to navigating healthcare and working with most insurance carriers. Who hasn't heard that's covered? Wink. We gotcha. It's pre-authorized. The charge is reasonable and customary. Profits over people, mission over margin. 2 out of 4 lies, sometimes 4 out of 4. And by the time you spot the wink, you're holding a $4,000 bill for lab work and a denial letter written by someone who's never met a human. At Keenly, we don't wink. We build benefits rooted in Idaho, fight for transparent pricing, advocate for local provider partnerships, and build benefits programs focused on helping. All communicated by local, passionate people committed to removing the barriers to accessing the care you need. Smart benefits, no winks. Keenly. Thank you, Keenly. All right, let's get our last set of storytellers up here for round 3 of our version of To Tell the Truth. We have one face you'll recognize and 2 new faces for this round. You guys are sharp, though. I don't know. We'll see. I think we may have saved the trickiest for last. So as you're coming up, let's go ahead and just have you come up to the mic and let us know what is your name.
People are tall. I'm Janet Lowe, and this is my story.
I'm Bridget Foley, and this is my story.
I'm Isabelle Shifrin, and this is my story.
One of the biggest lies I ever told slipped out of my mouth while I was in the 2nd grade. And I went to a rural Idaho city where the elementary school in a southern Idaho city where the population was around 1,300 people. And every little girl in the 2nd grade got to take ballet lessons. And I really wanted to learn ballet, but my parents wanted me to take violin lessons. So as a compromise, I got to wear my pink tights under my jeans when I practiced my Suzuki. And I was convinced that the reason I was not allowed to take ballet class was for cultural reasons. So we lived in a Mennonite farming community that was really far from town. And our nearest neighbor, they were all Mennonites. And even though my father had split with the Mennonite church when he was in his early 20s, when he and my mother, a non-Mennonite, accidentally got pregnant out of wedlock, my father was still very Mennonite culturally. In fact, most of our extended family on my dad's side were our neighbors in this Mennonite farming community. And one of the most forbidden things in the old Mennonite church is that you cannot dance. Now, I have no idea why. When I went to Mennonite boarding school in my last year in high school, we learned about the origins of religion and faith and its precepts, and nowhere in the church doctrine did the Mennonite founder, Menon Simon, state that Jesus forbids getting down on the dance floor. My boarding school classmates and I even had a joke about it. You want to hear it? Why don't Mennonites mate standing up? Anyone? Because it'll lead to dancing. We must have went to the same boarding school. So anyways, back to rural Idaho in the 2nd grade. So one day in recess, my 2nd day friend Amanda Merlin declared to a cluster of little girls, which included myself, I'm taking ballet, but my grandmother's gonna teach me jazz. And without missing a beat, I said, yeah, I know, my grandmother is gonna teach me tap dancing. And all the other girls nodded. They were really, really amazed. And I thought, oh no, what have I done? My grandparents lived about half a mile down the road from us, and I went there after school every day, and a lot of the times I slept over. And the thought of my old school Mennonite grandmother in her homemade dress and her steel gray hair pulled back in a bun, and sometimes she wore prayer coverings to church. The thought of her practicing paradiddles in the kitchen while, say, canning beans was as foreign an idea as imagining Ma Ingalls in a sequins tube top. I felt really bad about that lie for a long time. And when I was a kid, I had obsessions, and I was scared of really strange things like badgers and skunks and the teeth of those Olympic runner guys in that movie Chariots of Fire. And so this lie about my grandmother made me think that my mind was somehow working against me. Where did that lie come from? Because not only was it made out of whole cloth, but it contradicted the very essence of what and who my grandma was.
That lie haunted me for weeks. But I couldn't think about it all the time. I had to learn cursive and like how to build forts with my brothers and like where to find the litter of kittens that the barn cat had in a haystack. But then a couple weeks later, I found myself in my grandmother's living room, sitting next to her on the sofa, working on this embroidery sampler in a hoop that she had set up for me of a watering can with wildflowers in it. Did you guys do that one? She was darning my grandpa's socks. Yes, she darned his cheap polyester socks, even though it would have been so much easier to replace them. And all of a sudden I was unsettled because it was probably the memory of the lie like bulging inside of my unconscious. But I didn't know that that's what that was because I was, 7 at the time. And so instead of confessing, what I said was, "Why are all songs about girls?" And she just looked at me for a moment and said with her, steely look, "Not all songs are about girls. Many of them are about Jesus." Like bringing in the sheaves, or thus panteth the deer. And then realizing that I was not that familiar with the Mennonite hymnal, she threw in kind of lamely, "And Mary had a little lamb," which is about a girl. So I said, "There's a song on the radio that goes, oh, here she comes. Watch out, boys, she'll chew you up. Oh, here she comes. She's a man-eater." That song terrified me when I was a little girl. I couldn't help imagining a woman biting into a man's pink, hairy haunch and him screaming every time it came on the radio, just waves of fear. I often confessed my fears to my grandma. My parents were broken in all like the normal ways. Neglect and trauma, and on top of that, there was a farm and raising a family and going to college. And so I truly do believe that they gave me what they could give me, but somehow I still didn't get what I needed. And yet, by this bizarre turn of events, it meant that my grandma was someone who saw me for me, my ultra-conservative, semi-orthodox grandma saw me. And on that day, she looked at me and she saw me and she said, maybe you shouldn't listen to the radio. And at that time, I had the sense that Maneater was about more than a werewoman biting chunks off of a man's forearm. But even today, I wonder if my grandma, who was several decades older than me, knew that it was about more than that.
My grandparents and other old school Mennonites like them believed that they were in the world, but not of the world. Perhaps because of that, and also the very remote place in which we lived, they often seemed spectacularly ignorant of secular society. For example, my grandpa used his middle finger, and only his middle finger, to point at things. And we'd say, Grandpa, don't point at the clouds. My grandma mispronounced really common secular words all her life. For example, instead of saying pizza, she said pizza. She also had one pair of pants, these giant orange culottes that she wore only for gardening, and they were homemade, of course. But she didn't wear them all the time she gardened, only when she climbed the cherry tree to pick cherries for her famous preserves, probably so people wouldn't see her undies. So my grandma didn't do outside society, but as I was becoming more and more aware, I lived in outside society. I loved it when my grandma showed me how to make little dolls out of hollyhock blossoms, and when she made peppermint tea for my tea set. But I also liked lipstick and the naked statue named David I saw in the National Geographic once. And yes, dancing. My grandma, I was beginning to see, could never really know about the parts of me that were worldly. She wouldn't understand them. Therefore, how could she really know me? And if she didn't know me for reals, then how could she love me? Looking at her darning my grandpa's socks, I began to feel a strange new sensation, something I'd never felt around her before: rage. So then, putting down my embroidery hoop, I said possibly the most confrontational thing I had ever said to her, which was, "How come you never call me honey?" I could hear the way the rage made my voice tremble. It felt like it had when I'd lied, like another voice was coming out of me or speaking through me. It's just, Amanda Merlin's grandma, not only did she know jazz dance, she had frosted bangs and drank Diet Pepsi and called Amanda sweetheart. And Lindsay Plotkin's grandma was a hippie who lived in a teepee and swore like a sailor and called Lindsay Peanut. The only thing my grandma had ever called my siblings and me was children. Like, children, don't quarrel. Or, Jesus tells us not to strike one another, children. Or, if you are thirsty, children, get yourselves a tumbler of water from the sink. In the living room, my grandma's darning needles stopped. She didn't look at me, but put the darning needles down, scooched to the very front of her recliner, and stared out the window and became very, very still, like every cell in her body was listening. And finally she said, "Do you want me to call you honey?" And I said, yes, I do. So she started to call me honey after that. And at first it sounded really stilted, like she'd been practicing, like, honey, honey, honey. And then after a while, she began to drag out the vowels like honey, honey, honey. And it was like she was putting every ounce of her love into every letter. She was never gonna teach me how to tap dance. She didn't even know what tap dancing was. She would never understand the song Man Eater or have hair like a golden girl. But it felt like her agreeing to call me honey was her acknowledging for the very first time the existence of a giant chasm between us that could never be crossed. It was not the same as actually crossing the chasm, like knowing all of me and loving all of me. But this one thing, it was everything I could ask her to give. It was all that the love she had for me, and she was more than willing to give it. And in that moment, it was enough.
Thank you. Wow, even I have had hair like a golden girl. Some might argue I have it right now. All right, thank you, storytellers. Let's go ahead and put up our Give Lively screen and see where we are. What I see here is people do not want to ask questions. It's all anonymous except for Allison. Thank you, Allison. Well, Allison, you're right here. Do you want to ask a question of the storytellers? Okay.
I'll ask the second storyteller, where was your Mennonite colony?
Glenn's Ferry.
Glenn's Ferry, okay. How about you, number 3?
Yeah, it was about 30 miles outside of Glenn's Ferry.
It's a southern Idaho town called Glenn's Ferry.
I think there was something conspiratorial happening there between our storytellers. All right, very good. Let's see the next slide, please. Round 3, who lied about learning to tap dance? You should be able to go to your screen. Oh, here they come. Everyone has voted storyteller number 2, 85%. And storyteller number 1 and 3 are tied. Still at, now slipping a little. It looks like, yeah, okay. All right. 73%. Still 60. Shrinking. Oh my. Oh, this is getting exciting. Oh my goodness. All right. Well, let's go back to the Give Lively screen, if you would, for a moment. Okay, because what I've been told by one of our board members is we cannot reveal the true storyteller until we reach $2,000. And 51 of you have done your job and we're only, if I can do math quickly, $162 away from our goal. 162 divided by 16 is 10? 10 people? 10 people giving $16? 10 people? Whoa! Oh, okay. $1. We can do that off the app. I can add it to that total. $18.39. Okay, well, while we're waiting for that final 162, what part of what this money is going towards is supporting our upcoming programming this summer. So I'm going to invite our host and curator of the June show, and also you know her from Late Night for many years now. Please welcome our host and curator, Beth Norton, who is going to tell us something about the show coming up in June. Thank you, Beth. Oh, we're still at 18:39, so do a motivational speech.
Happy to kill some time, Jodi. I should have just donated. I was thinking about it. That was a really big applause for $20. Okay. Well, okay, so the June show, June 8th, it's a Monday night. We're going to be at the Idaho Botanical Gardens. And the theme for the night is Teach Me Something, stories of great teachers and how we've been shaped by them. Yeah, so we're gonna show some love to some teachers. I am still looking for featured storytellers for that. So if you want to be a featured storyteller, come see me after the show. That would be great. So featured storytellers, tonight was a little different. So you didn't really get to see, for people who are new, you didn't really get to see featured storytellers, but it's a 10 to 12 minute story, kind of deep dives on the theme. Woohoo! Wow! Whoa! Whoa! Oh, Jeff. Okay, all right, we did it. Yeah, and then if you want to come and share a story about a teacher that touched your life, you can do that. And we look forward to seeing you there. Thanks.
So Beth will be hanging out after the show if you want to talk to her. Oh, is Mark Johnson up there? No. Oh, okay. He will be. You can also email story@storystorynight.org to be a featured storyteller. You can also go to our website and click storytellers, and there's a little form you can fill out. Or you can call our story hotline at 208-917-1970. Wow, good job, folks. Also, let me point out another person who's very important to Story Story Night, and that is one of our founders and the OG host for 6 years. Our first 6 years was Jessica Holmes, and she's here tonight. Jessica, somewhere. Where is she? Oh, she's smoking. That's why she's not the host anymore. Look at this cute glass she gave me, though. It has all the little emojis on it. So sweet. All right, ashtray. Yeah, I have to wash it first. Well, congratulations, everyone. The 66 donors that have helped us surpass our individual giving goal. Thank you so much. Happy birthday. So that means now we can ask, let's go back to the poll, please, and see if we've settled here. Well, it's pretty close, actually. Storyteller 2 at 48, 3 at 37, and Storyteller 1 at 15. But now we will ask for the person who this story belongs to. Would you please stand? There she is! Storyteller number 3! All right. And the other thing I want to say really quickly right now is how thankful we are and grateful we are for the people who these stories belong to, because they were very generous. They wrote out the whole story in order to support the imposters, and we normally don't ask our storytellers to do that. So not only were they so giving with their story and allowing everyone to share it, but they also helped them out. So thanks to all those original stories. Louis, Isabelle, and Mark. All right, I'll call you back up at the end, but we're going to have you sit down now. I think we have a lot of competition for a slammer. Now our first... But how do we know which one it is? That's awesome. All right, just in time. I think we have a lot of competition in this slammer box, so we want to get at least one more slammer. Our first slammer kind of guided us into whether his story was true or false, aside from the gargoyle. Okay, let's see. if they can fool us. All right, 5 minutes to share your crazy story. Patty F. Patty F. Patty! Oh, I know this Patty. Welcome back. Yeah, thank you. Patty was with us in Slammer of the Year not too long ago. She told a slam during one of our December shows for King. So I also know that Patty works in theater, the theatre. So we might be in trouble, folks. We might be in trouble.
I was born a poor Italian girl in Newark, New Jersey. And I like to call this story Escape from Newark. When I was about 11 years old in elementary school, well, first of all, our apartment to begin with was 1 bedroom and a living room and a kitchen. So the living room was my bedroom, and we had a bathroom with a tub and a toilet. So the kitchen sink was where we brushed our teeth and washed our face. And then we moved up to a project apartment that had 3 bedrooms, because by then I had a brother, and it still only had 1 bathroom, but it had a shower and a sink, as well as a toilet. So we were like really moving up in the world. And I was at school one day, and there was an announcement on the loudspeaker, will Patty Donnell, that was my name, after my father changed it so it wouldn't sound Italian. Would Patty Donnell please come to the office? And I thought, what did I do? And she said, you need to go home right away. Your mother is very sick. Take your books with you and go home. Well, my apartment was walking distance to the school. And as I walked from the school, I saw my mother and father loading everything that we owned into the trunk of our car, which was a Hudson, by the way, if any of you are old enough to remember those. I didn't have any idea what was going on, and my father just said, just be quiet and get in the car. Okay, now I have to backtrack a little. My father was he called himself an entrepreneur, but actually he was a con man. And he had an ambition to become a made man with the mob. And he never quite got that far. But he was involved with all those unsavory characters. And he had opened a sewing factory, because sewing was what my mother and my grandmothers did. And he had borrowed money from these mob people. And I was too young to understand, but there was some fight about union and non-union and a fire in the factory. And everything got ruined by the sprinklers and not the fire, so insurance didn't cover it. And the next thing I knew, we were loading everything we owned into the back of the car. And my father said, you can't tell anybody where we're going, you can't say goodbye to anybody, just get in the car and don't talk. And so my mother, my father, and I were all in the front seat, because they didn't have bucket seats back then. We did have electricity when I was a child, but we didn't have bucket seats. And we went to the preschool nursery that my brother was in. He was 2 at the time. And the 4 of us sat in the front seat of the Hudson and drove nonstop, except for gas, to Florida. I didn't know where we were going. I didn't know why we were going there. All I knew was we could stop for gas and get a bologna sandwich. And we drove straight through, and my mother's mother lived in Florida. So we boarded with her for a little while, but I wasn't allowed to write to any of my friends or relatives in Newark. I wasn't allowed to tell anybody where we were, and I had to start a whole new life in Florida, and I didn't know why. And I think it kind of scarred me for life, and I always hated living in Florida. because I wanted to live in New Jersey because it was close to New York and I was going to be a Broadway star. You can't be a Broadway star when you live in Florida. But anyway, it was a really long and complicated story. We were kind of hiding out at my grandmother's rooming house. By the way, my grandmother had a rooming house, and she gave one room to my mother and my father and my little brother, and I had to sleep behind a curtain in the hallway, and all of her boarders were men. And I was 11, and it was really weird. Fortunately, my father, with his mafiosa techniques, scared all the men away, so nobody made any advances. So I was safe in that respect. But I was an outcast. I escaped from Newark, and I didn't know why. Years later, I found out that it was because my father owed all these mob men money. And with the fire, that I never knew how that fire got started, but with the fire, he didn't have any money to pay them back, and so they wanted to keep me as collateral. And so in order to prevent that, we escaped from Newark to Florida. Unfortunately, he repeated the same stuff in Florida. And so when I was 21, because you had to be 21 to be legal age back then, I'm really old. I just ran away from home and moved to New York on my own. And my mother had to live with the consequences of her husband's climb to the top of the mob, which he never reached, by the way. But anyway, so I felt after a while, when I realized that I had finally broken free, not only of living in Newark, which really, you don't want to go there. It may be better now, I don't know, but you really don't want to go to Newark. The trauma of leaving my family and my friends and everything that I knew in New Jersey and moving to Florida forced me to become adaptable. And I got involved in theater in Florida, and I made friends there. But I couldn't wait to get away from that man that I had to call Daddy. And so I went to New York, and I escaped, and I actually never talked to my father again after that. But I found out from my mother that the reason we had to leave the way we did was because they wanted to keep me as collateral. Now, I don't know if you've seen The Godfather or any of those movies, but that really wasn't so far-fetched a thing. So in a way, I was blessed. I escaped from New Jersey. I got involved in theater in Florida. I moved to New York, and my dreams, I didn't become a Broadway star, but my dreams all came true, so it had a happy ending.
Thank you, Patty. All right.
Do I leave?
Stay here for a second, because we're going to find out. Now, does anyone here dare to doubt the words of Patty Finley? Raise your hand if you think this story was false. Oh, really? Okay. I mean, if it was false, wouldn't she have been on Broadway? Okay, how many of you think Patty's story was true? Yes, the overwhelming crowd says true. Patty, was that a true story?
Actually, yes.
Yes, it was. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Could you go and sign our... Oh, my goodness. Can I get all the tell the truth storytellers back up on stage, please? All the two that tell the truth, come on up here, gather around our chairs. Yes, let's give them... How about some motivational music as they're coming up here? Here they come. Thank you so much to all the imposters and all of the true storytellers. Beautiful. Now we have, I want to mention that I did reach out to a community group called Recycled Minds, and they provided us with two of the storytellers who have a particular expertise in improv. And those are Duanne and Bridget. Thank you. And our other full-time imposter, Janet Lowe, is a theater professional as well, who famously told a story for Eject, where she kicked out a famous director out of her apartment. It was, who was it again? Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. We don't need to say. We kicked him out. All right. And Lewis has been on our stage before. This was Mark Drew's first time on our stage. Thank you. And Isabelle, I believe you featured at Late Night, but this was your first time at this stage, right? Yeah, so thank you to all of you. Thank you very much. But mostly, I just like to have some company here as we do our final number. All right, so get ready to start singing with me, okay? All right. All right, last time for the season, Stephen, the Story Night theme song. Stories come from the land as well as its people, and I want to acknowledge that we are on the traditional land of the Shoshone-Bannock people. Story Night is supported by public funding for the arts through the Idaho Commission on the Arts, the Idaho Legislature, and the National Endowment for the Arts. We also receive funding from the Boise Department of Arts and History. Remember, you can listen to our podcast from all our shows, and you can see the shows that are on this stage on our YouTube channel, and those go back a few years. We also have a radio show. It just played this last Sunday. It's Story Night on Stray Theater, which you can hear on pretty much every Sunday before our live show, and that's from 5:30 to 6 p.m. on Radio Boise. Okay, he had a big job tonight. Thank you to our crew, technical director, podcast, and video engineer, Stephen Baldessari. Thank you to our screen operator and board member, Nathan. Thank you, Nathan. Thank you to our photographer, long-term photographer, Christina Birkenbein. Thank you to our volunteers, and tonight, his first time on full shift, our volunteer coordinator, Sean Browning. Thank you to our board of directors. Thank you to our subscribers. Thank you to Jump and the crew here for hosting us. Get some birthday goodies on your way out the door. And also, Story Night. Story good night. Beginning, middle, now at the end. Authentic, mostly. Inspiring and very spontaneous. So thank you. You shared your stories and you really listened. I might have come here as a stranger, but now I'm leaving as a friend. And tonight we learned you should be careful of those lurking around the McDonald's. And so the stories never end. Thank you so much for all your support, and we'll see you again in June at Idaho Botanical Garden. Good night.